Welcome to Blue Monday, me and Dave this week. It's the first Monday in about 3 seasons that we've been able to relax and not have to worry about anyone's results before the season's finished. Dave, it's been an incredible week. We'll touch on the week first and then go on to the sort of wider implications for next season a bit later on. But possibly the most important week in our history. We seem to say that every single season, don't we? This is the most important game in our history. But I think having your relegation, a direct relegation rival, your City rival, and your rival for what would be the coveted 15th spot in the league,
Yeah,
all within 6 days. I can't actually think of that we've ever had a bigger week, and I think it went better than anyone expected, didn't it?
it is. And do you know what? In doing post match of the weekends from Brentford game, and obviously we've done all three of them inside the week. Um, I don't feel that I've personally haven't sort of screamed from the rooftops enough about how well we've done, how well we've played, how well that it's been handled. Because I think much of the conversation I've had on social and with friends and all that since then has already kicked off the summer. Saying every season we seem to say this is the most important for the next year. It's become a cliche, but it is this summer for a variety of reasons, not just we need to sign this, we need to sign that. Signing players is really on the back burner of all that, isn't it? But going through that week. I mean, I was most petrified of the Forest game, if I'm honest. I thought that was a horrible one to have. And you know what? Probably a little bit of hindsight included in this. I would have taken a point.
Yeah,
Given the fact that we won the other two, I would have taken a point in anything, truth be told. But to win that game, I remember us talking beforehand, a week before, Les, about you'd take four, you'd even take not getting beat in any of those three games, but
yeah,
it was imperative that we won at least one of them. And having done that, having won the first one of the three, I was like, and look, loads of Reds would say, "Oh yeah, you're just saying that, you're just sort of like trying to cry it in a little bit." But as soon as we beat Forest, that I did feel, and we said it, me and you said it. You don't want to include that word freebie, but it was along those lines. I felt against
yeah,
Liverpool. The fact it was, made me feel really surprised that we went and did what we did against them because it's not normally what Everton do. It's not a typical Everton week. It's typical not an Everton derby that, and we
yeah,
rise to the occasion. And I don't think we've played a derby that well for quite some time.
yeah. I think that Forest game, it set the tone for the whole week, didn't it? If we'd have if we'd have lost that game, we'd have basically been going into the derby probably needing something,
Yeah,
and then that changes the whole complexion of that game. And then if we come out of the derby having got nothing, then that Brentford game becomes like vital. It's We need to win that, and even then, it might not be enough depending on how all the rest of the fixtures go. Um, so yes, that Forest game really was vital, and I think we were surprised. We said at the time just how routine that win was. But yeah, to take that momentum into the derby and really sort of fly out the traps at them, which we never do. And to get that penalty shout, albeit turned down after 5 minutes, that clearly put them on the back foot there. Because how many derbies have we been to where they've absolutely flown at us in the
yeah,
first 5 minutes,
yeah,
and we've been like,
yeah,
shit, got no chance here.
yeah.
They were on the receiving end of that, and I think after the sort of bad run of results that they were on, it properly shocked them, and I don't think they ever recovered for the rest of the game.
Yeah. I think that, do you know what? Slightly opposite way of perspective I've got on that. I was expecting them to proper race out the traps, given how crap they've been beforehand.
Yeah,
I think as well. Think what you want about Klopp, but what he's won for them, sad enough, astonishing how he's done there. Remember when he came in what 2015, and they were a load of shite after Sean Rodgers, but Sean Rodgers, Sean
Freudian
Rodgers is
slip
from
there.
another podcast, isn't he? Yeah. Brendan Rodgers after that, I mean, they were atrocious. You think of the squad they had. And he turned that round pretty quickly and got them sorted. And look, I'm not going to bang on about that because we all know what happened with them. But um, I was surprised at the naivety it seemed that they had against us there because he's been to Goodison loads of times. Though he hasn't lost at Goodison, I think, before
No,
this one.
that was the first time. Yeah,
Him coming there, and I just wonder what his training session was like. What his half an hour to team talk was like before the game, thinking that
mm.
this is going to be a conventional Everton that are let's face it, a pretty shit side, but they're going to be kicking us all over the place as soon as this game started. And when it did start, like the same old things that we say is, you've got to get straight into them as soon as it started, set the tone by making a really good challenge, get the crowd up for it, all of that sort of thing. The way in which they, again, for want of a better term, allowed that, the way in which that was felt simple for us to be able to do against them was quite staggering. Ironically, if any, and it shocked us, I think more than it would have them. Do you know what I mean? Because I was thinking,
Yeah,
these aren't up for scrapping with this. These aren't up for that, and I felt that quite quickly. I felt comfortable. Nonetheless, the usual feeling of they'll do us at some point, something will happen at some point. And those things did come about, but they were absolutely shit when they did. I mean, you think of Nunes there, just looked like a cart horse.
yeah.
That opportunity has that he hit straight at Pickford. I mean, we were fortunate he did that because he should slot, he should
He
score.
should, yeah, he should
And
be
then
better there.
Diaz almost does the exact same thing a little bit later on in that first half. And they're the kind of things, Les, and I know you'll back me up in this here. They're the type of things that happen in games where you start thinking, could be our night this.
Yeah, yeah, it
You
is,
know what
isn't
I
it? I
mean?
think
Yeah.
I was on the 6:20 slot with on Radio 5 on Thursday morning. Neil Atkinson was on it from the Wrap,
Yeah.
and he was saying basically Liverpool let Everton do that, which to a degree they did. But my comeback to that was, well, yeah, but Everton still had to do what Liverpool let them do, which in
Mm.
the past we've frozen, and we didn't. We took full advantage of their deficiencies, and I think 2-0 probably flattered them, to be honest, because
Did.
it could have been
Did.
more. We completely outplayed them, and they didn't lay a glove on us. But then moving on to Saturday's game. Remember, I never thought we'd get. I thought the Brentford game. I thought we are on a hiding to nothing,
Yeah.
purely because it was after the euphoria of the derby, so it was always going to be a little bit flat after that anyway.
Yeah.
But Everton just don't get 9 points in 6 days. I was going into that game thinking there's absolutely no way we come out of this with a
Yeah.
100% record, but we did it again and didn't concede again. Completely different game to the derby.
Yeah.
Wasn't the greatest game, but again, just another routine win where they just did a really good job on a team who were
Yeah.
sort of, around about the same position as us in the table, and who people were looking at earlier in the season, sort of touting Thomas Frank for bigger things. So it's a good result. That another team we've done the double on this season now. It is, isn't it?
It is, yeah. We went away to
Yeah,
them. Yeah. Do you know, have you ever seen that meme when Dyche was at Burnley and it's snowing
yeah.
and he's looking at the floor like smiling as if like this is my kind of thing?
And he's just in
I,
his
I,
shirt.
yeah, I
Yeah,
felt throughout this week, you'd imagine him waking up in the morning next to his wife saying, do you know what, love? This is going to be a good day. This, do you know what I mean? I can imagine him just loving that, because it's his kind of thing, the underdog thing that he loves. I think that's what that's what made him who he is as a manager. I don't want to stereotype him. Well, I guess I am, but he is that kind of manager. I think that loves it when he's the underdog, loves when he wants to scrap. Certain type of Moyes, I can see certain similarities to how he approaches games. In that he's absolutely fine with not having as much of the ball as the opponent. He's absolutely fine with it being a physical battle and set pieces. Moyes loved that from particularly the starter when he first came in for us. That
yeah,
was really important. To Dyche, I think that's his bread and butter, and him getting up after that. If when he got up on Thursday morning, he must have been like, do you know what? This is me this weekend. I find this really comfortable. This is probably the most comfortable I've felt my job since I've been at Everton here, because I know how we're going to do these. I know what we need, what approach you need against a Brentford side. They've got Ivan Toney up front. I've got one of the best defenders in the world, and I've got a decent fella alongside him when he turns up. We should do these. We should really do these. And again, another game, Les, which I thought we should have won, a lot more comfortable than what it was in the end.
yeah. We're hitting the bar twice.
Yeah.
Definitely a case with Dwight McNeil to play down the middle.
Yeah, I mean, again, another interesting conversation to have, that, isn't it? I don't know if I take these games towards the end of the season as a little bit of a pinch of salt, because you do end up doing things a little bit different, and
Yeah,
I sort of I've got that sort of versus, well, we still needed the points in my mind, so that's why he's done it. Maybe he knows that where we need to do that, or does he actually think, you know what, we're all but safe here. Let me put the boat out a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I think he looked a hell of a lot better there.
Yeah,
I think Jack Harrison's come into his own as well. Um, let's be fair, mate. We've ripped them apart all season long, and you've. I go a little bit further and sort of, doffing your cap to him because it's moments like this where you think people are the worst, and he's come out as looking like this is the best way he's played for us. Undoubtedly, the best 3 games in a row that he's had for Everton. Look, it leads us always to the end of it, don't we? Like we did at the end of that Derby game. Where the fucking hell's this been all season? Do you know what I mean? And
yeah,
I mean, that is the Everton way, isn't it? That's where we get to when we disappoint, when the times when you think we're playing our best. It's when we're at our worst that we end up turning up at our best. And I think that epitomised this entire week, to be honest with you. But yeah, I mean, there's a few bits of food for thought for him this summer. Um, Again, like forget the transfer window because I think if we get half a player, we'd be lucky,
yeah,
given what's going on off the pitch, and that's going to be the thing that kicks us in the bollocks all summer long. The old cliche comes out, doesn't it? Everyone's on the holiday now and all this, but I mean, you might as well go now because there's no way we can sign a player for some time, given what's going on with finances and all that nonsense. So, um, I think it's been refreshing to see bits and pieces, like you said there about McNeil playing in the centre. I think sides who play against us will not be expecting it either. I mean, even when he's done it, they're still thinking they'll go back to type and put him on the left hand side. He's got the energy to do so as well. I think the lads is probably at the top of that list who needs a holiday, by the way, because
yeah.
he's ran his socks off again. Somebody else who have certainly me have criticised him a lot. Um, but somebody else who stepped up, Leslie, you can't fault most of these lads, given what they've done in these last 3 games. It's the other what? 31 of them, 32 of them that have wrecked me head. Do you know what I mean?
Well, thingy, Everton Nova Scotia put a tweet out saying Everton this season is schizophrenic. No wins in 7 games, then 7 wins in 10 games, followed by no wins in 13 games, and now 4 wins in 5 games, consistently
I
inconsistent.
think,
And that has been our season, hasn't it? How do you deal with that? It's
well, I
been
think,
enough. It's been enough to get us mid-table, and I think of the sort of mini league of sort of bottom half clubs or relegation threatened clubs. I think we come out on top
yeah.
in that little mini league. And that's kind of all you need to do to get by in this league, isn't it? Just beat the team, beat the shite, basically. Maybe get the odd result against the better teams, and you'll be fine. You won't be pulling up any trees, but you'll be doing all right.
Mm.
Maybe even trouble in the European spots.
Yeah.
But it's like, as fans, it's frustrating because we give Dyche a lot of stick, and we'll come on to him in a minute. And he's rightly had a lot of stick because that winless run was pretty pathetic, and the worst in our Premier League history, almost the worst in our entire history, I think. So
Yeah.
he did need to come under some scrutiny and criticism for that because, again, he didn't really change anything. They had that 3 week break in Portugal, and all that seemed to come out of that was a slap for Nathan Patterson. So it was like,
Who hasn't been seen since.
he's suddenly injured as well. But I sort of think, as fans, it's hard that to see your team be that up and down. When it's good, it's very good, and when it's bad, it's awful. But I just don't know how, as a team and a manager, you kind of deal with that really weird peaks and troughs. It's not easy, is it?
I think that's an excellent point. Something that's gone under the radar. I think for even the most dire fans of Dyche, which I think I think Mark Mosley's been getting a load of grief for this as well. And to be fair to him, I was along those lines, and I still am, to be honest with you. But like you say, we'll go on to that in a minute or so. And I'm willing to stick my head out a little bit more, out of the trenches to sort of say what I'm going to about Sean Dyche. But you're right. I think when you get into those positions where you're like, none of this makes sense. You can't look at a run of games and think, well, do you know what? I need to change this. I need to change that. We need to find where our best performances are. You can't because there's so many, like you say, peaks and troughs. It's where I do have sympathy for them, but you know that 1 in 15, that's worse than what Lampard was sacked for.
Yeah.
So I think that anybody who wants them out at that point, I think they're justified by that. Because certainly I don't think we were playing any better football than what it was like
No,
under Frank
and
Lampard. It's easy to say we were, Les. It's easy to go with, Yeah, but look at how crap Lampard was. But when we've been at the bad luck, we've had the point deduction, so everyone's feeling shit on themselves and feeling down on themselves. But at that point, I was like,
Yeah,
I don't think we would have sacked him, just given the position we're in, who'd you go and get, etc. Look at the stage of the season and all that. But you go back to that stage where Lampard was binned, if you coupled that up to that, and it was a year ago, and Sean Dyche won 1 in 15 with that double header we lost against Bournemouth around Christmas,
yeah.
I'm pretty certain he'd be gone.
Well, that's it. You know, there are it's they're not direct comparisons because the circumstances were different, but the basic facts and the cliche is football's about winning, which it is. It's about getting points on the board.
Yeah.
The basic facts were, regardless of the circumstances, that's the worst run we've ever had in the Premier League. Mike Walker has always been the benchmark, and sadly now he's not. So no matter where Sean Dyche goes from here, that is always the benchmark of the worst winless Everton run.
You
Which
want him
makes it
gone
all
at
the
that
more,
time,
more
Les?
remarkable where we are now.
Did you want him out at that point? At any point?
I was dead on the side. Probably, yeah, just on the basis of he wasn't doing anything to change it, and it was like he was just waiting for it to change. Now, I think we were lucky, like for once in the position that the club's in, that there's basically no one there to sack him. Probably couldn't afford to sack him because I've absolutely no doubt if this had happened at any time in the last 6, 7 years, he'd have been gone, like 100% gone. And I don't know if anyone would have been able to turn it around the way he has this last week. I've said it before. I thought Chelsea one of the worst displays I've ever seen, and I thought there was no coming back from that. I thought we'd be lucky to get another point all season at this rate. But the players and the manager and the fans as well have helped turn that round. Like everyone's played the part in that, and that can't be underestimated. Really, as bad as everything's been, to turn it round that much, it is a big achievement. And I think if you're not looking at him in a different light, if you were saying, I want them gone in that 15 game run, which is fair enough because under any other circumstances he would have been. But I think if you look at it now and you're not a little bit, I don't know, I think that's a little bit blinkered.
I think you're right. I think that what comes in his favour is the mitigating circumstances that were there for him. Absolutely. Given the mountain we had to climb when he came in. Look, I'm not sitting there thinking, do you know what? That's where you can excuse losing most of a 1 in 15 run of games, but I do think what you've said's bang on. To be honest with you, where you're thinking, well, where'd you go? What direction do you go? And look, it's an age-old thing that everybody sells whenever you sack a manager. I mean, we've done it, about a dozen times in the last few years
Yeah.
when we've had the money, when we haven't had the money. Who should we get in to save us? Who do we get in to carry us forward? Ancelotti, and then we got to Benitez, like all of that. I mean, you could have serious mental conditions with what's gone on at this football club.
That's cost the club £50 million as well, by the way.
Well, that's the other side of it as well. I mean, shameless plug, but if you look at the book piece that I've been doing with Steve Dickinson and Lyndon Lloyd there about the brilliant book they brought out there about Everton's history to get to the point we are under Mashiri, the financial side of it, obviously, which is probably head of the list that we are all going to look at across the summer when we can't sign a player or probably can't finish building a couple of seats in wood or something at the new stadium. If you think back to how much money it cost, it does go by the wayside when you're thinking about how much we had to pay for that. Everton are in the doldrums, and for Everton to stay up there is a huge credit to Sean Dyche. Look, now the conversation that comes now is, do you keep him on? And I think that's probably the easiest decision we've got. And again, I don't want to say it was a knee-jerk reaction, this, but if you go back 9 days ago, I'd be saying with you, you've got to get rid of him, you've got to start again in the summer. Now I'm in a position where I'm like, he's absolutely earned certainly the start of another season. Given the situation we're in, he's probably earned another full season, let's be fair. And that's that's down to him, because the way in which these players have had to get where they were, I mean, we've got a piss poor squad, if we're honest. For him to get a tick out of them just in time, albeit that's a big credit that he deserves for that. And like you said there, you look at that record he has, for him to tip that round. And for him to do a 180, comparing him to Walker, what you were talking about there, is astounding, really, when you put it in that sort of context. You'll know this much more than me, but that squad back when we had him with Brett Angel and all that, obviously was much worse than what we've got now, which also seems to me, and probably in a quite converse different way, that I'm thinking, do you know what Dyche has done is actually worse because he's had a better squad. If you get what I mean?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure if that squad that Mike Walker had and Joe Royle inherited was worse. There were some really good players in that squad. You know, you had Anders Limpar in there, Barry Owen turned the corner massively. You had Southall in goal, Dave
So you're talking about
Watson,
you're talking peak 90, 94,
94,
95.
basically. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean that team that basically stayed up on the last day. You know, Gary Ablett was in there. John Erbel turned into a good player for us. Graham Stewart, Paul Rideout. There was a lot. Duncan Ferguson came down. There was a lot of good players in that team. I just think that was a case of having a really crap manager who didn't know what to do with them. Joe Royle came in, saw what to do, played to their strength. So I'm not sure if that team is worse. I don't know.
But
I
a
think we're
comparison
definitely worse
between
than 98.
but a
98 was
comparison,
definitely
but I was going to say comparison between Royal. That's the other thing I wanted to ask you when we were when I was looking at Ed, so I was doing this. What comparison you see between what Royal did to what Dyche has done?
um yeah, it's similar. I think I don't know. It's hard to compare anyone to Joe Royle, isn't it? Because he's Joe
Yeah.
Royle and he's just like my favourite manager ever. But you know, on the face of it, let's just look at the stats. Like he came in halfway through last season when we were dead and buried, kept us up. He's in absolutely ridiculous circumstances with a 10-point penalty hanging over us for what, 3 months? So you don't know where. So you're preparing for games. You don't know. Obviously, you need to win each game, but you don't know what your position is. Whether you win this game, are you going to get the points, but are you not going to get the points? So to work under those conditions is difficult. He was a really shit penalty kick away from getting us to a semi-final, which looking on the 2 games we played against Liverpool, I know at the time people were saying, oh, well, we could do without 2 games against them. But let's look at the 2 games we played against them this season. They beat us 2-0 when we were down to 10 men from 40 minutes. And even that, you know, it took until about the 75th, 80th minute for them to like sort of break the deadlock there. And they should have had a man sent off as well, which may have made a complete difference. And we beat them at home. So there's nothing to say we couldn't have done them over those 2 games as well. Obviously, we'll never know. But to look at it kind of objectively like that, he has done a remarkable job this season. What was the F? Who knocked us out the effort? Oh, Luton, wasn't it? Yeah. Luton's been our Port Vale. Let's put it
They're
that
about
way.
to get three in a row on Friday.
If they beat us 3 times this season, just relegate us to League Two. Just do it straight away.
Well, do you know, a completely different subject. I'd rather they stay up over Forest.
I don't know. I've got a mate in work who supports Forest. I just hate Luton.
But is he actually a nice person? Because I haven't seen many Forest fans who are
Oh,
nice.
he is. He's sound.
Oh,
Yeah,
good.
yeah, he is
I'll
sound.
root for him then, mate, because I will never forget, and I know what happens when most teams come to Goodison. They started singing, you know, all of the nonsense.
Oh yeah, I
It's like
mean,
they started from like before the game even kicked off. I think that's probably a
yeah,
record.
it is a dog of a fan base. But I'll just throw Luton and a Tommy Robinson shouts at you. Doesn't get any worse, worse for me.
Oh, people have
So yeah,
put. I love the way the lot of Evertonians have put like videos of him at the game and all that, saying you've got to beat these bastards just because he's standing there next to them with his boys in his little fucking his
got
Stone
to.
Island top.
The ideal result on Friday is that we beat them and he gets filled in. That'll be perfect. That just on that then, just before we go back onto Dyche, I'll play devil's advocate with Dyche.
Yeah.
But just on that game, Sky have really had their eye wiped there, haven't they? That was the game that they were looking at this 3 games in a week, thinking there's a potential they get nothing out of that. Luton could all but send them down here. That's exactly what they wanted. Sean Dyche didn't allude to it, just called it out at his press conference for what it was. That game now, as far as we're concerned, it's a dead rubber. But sorry, bit of stream of consciousness going on here. Just sort of saying what I think.
I've interrupted enough times with mine.
But then to kind of flip that round, like every point still counts to us because we are in financial trouble. I don't know how much you get for each position you get up the league. We're probably going to finish 15th at best. It will take Palace to have a bit of a collapse in us to win every game to finish any higher. But it feels like we've been done twice this season. Well, three times this season by the league because we've had 2 points deductions. And basically that's going to stop a good 10, 15 million in potential prize money there. That would be massive to the clubs.
Yeah, yeah.
You look at that and you think, well, we're not asked about the rest of the season, but every penny counts for the club now. And it seems very unfair that the club are further, like constantly punishing Everton. And, this whole don't punish the fans thing has gone right out the window because if we can't enjoy a summer, this points deductions do punish the fans because it could have sent us down. It hasn't. But then we might go through a summer where we don't sign a player and suddenly August comes and we're back to this.
Well, I think as well, the other thing that is in my mind immediately, because I've just renewed my season ticket, that's why it's at the top of my head, is that it's the last season in Goodison. And I'm not a sentimental fan whatsoever. I go as far as saying I really, not despise is probably too strong of a word, but it wrecks my head when I speak to a lot of sentimental fans, because I always find it hard to be sentimental when you are where you are, to be honest with you. I completely get it, but it burns me head a bit given the situation that we're in, because I always think when people talk about it, it shouldn't be in the same realm of how crap we are and how that needs to be fixed. I think, ironically, Les, me and you've just spoken in very sentimental ways. When I asked you about Roy, I asked about Joe Royle. I asked you about the way in which that team was, players and whatnot. That can be deemed as quite sentimental, and I'm very much like that in this conversation we're having. But when I get to a position where it's like that, I think we're all going to be that way when we go back into Goodison in August, and everything's like, oh, there's 18 games left, there's
Yeah.
17 games left. You're counting down games. You're thinking, how do I get this? How do I take my seat with me? I'm taking a screwdriver with me. I'm getting it out of here. No doubt the club will be selling it for about £1,000 that we've all got to pay at the end of the season. All of those things are in my mind, and that's obviously well ahead of a summer we've got where we haven't got a pot to piss in. And you're right, you're talking about them where we've been done a third time in terms of where we can't finish. I think someone was saying to me, the highest we can finish, I think, is it's 13th or 14th, but it's worth like 9 million to us.
Yeah.
Every other club around us, I'd say, well, 90% of the Premier League wouldn't really be asked about 9 million quid. 9 million quid is worth a hell of a lot of money for Everton right now. And look, it's sad we're in that situation, but I can't remember what advert it was, but what is it? Tesco, wasn't it? Every little help, every little helps. So that's unfortunately where we are, Les. And it feels to me that we're getting into a summer, particularly what we do with the Blue Room, content wise. I remember me and Matt have said many times in years gone by, certainly not the last 3 years for obvious reasons, that we were in a relegation fight right up to the end. But we're like, what content are we going to do this summer? And I sat there the other day thinking, there's still going to be bagfuls to talk about this summer. Do you know what I mean? Transfers, brand play, probably we're getting off 500 million quid and we try to keep him. What do you do with Beto? Giving a fiver a week?
I
All of
know.
that conversation's still going to be there. So, I remember people saying to me, when I was talking about how where we should be, where we could be, if you flip things around, if there was that sort of sliding doors moment wasn't there with the deductions and things like that, I was like, you know what, where would we be? And so many people replied saying, mate, just have a rest, just chill out now, we're safe, go and enjoy yourself. I can't do that.
Yeah.
I can't do that. I mean, I could not watch the last three games. Absolutely, I don't care. I don't care now because they're not going to win the league, and we're safe. You'd have told me that again 9 days ago. I'd have been like, and you talk about the narrative of Sky once again. By the way, they wanted Luton. They had their little lovers there, didn't they?
Yeah.
And as that come on, the other one was they were desperate for Liverpool to stay in a 3-horse race, absolutely seething that Everton won that game. And if you looked at, I know Carragher was on. Sorry, Carragher wasn't on the commentary, was it? He was in the studio with Rooney, but it was Neville. And if you listen back to Neville, what he was saying was absolutely spot on in terms of how we've been able to manipulate, how we were able to change things into some sort of shape that got us out of this situation. But predominantly, he was talking about Goodison. And that's what sort of is edging towards the top of my mind now is the happiest feeling I've got is that we've got our last season at Goodison in the Premier League, and as crap as the Premier League is, as horrible as it is with the finances, point deductions that it's given to us, and how unfair it's been towards a lot of clubs, us at the top of that list, us going into Goodison without being in the top division in football, that'd be such a heartbreak, wouldn't it? So there's my sentimental bit that I've completely just kicked off on people who are sentimental, but there's my bit there, throwing that right in.
No, it is though, isn't it? It's it's unthinkable that no one's got a divine right to anything in football, but it is kind of unthinkable that we wouldn't be in the top division, and we've come way too close on too many occasions now, just in
Yeah,
the last 3 years, to not being in the top division. Now, we said a lot of times we're probably one of the most boring clubs you can get because we just exist, don't we? We just kind of get by. We have nights like the other night, which were unbelievable. We have a few of them, but aside from that, we don't get much. Um, we don't know what next season's going to bring. It could be our last at Goodison, could be our last in the top flight because we might go down next year. Hopefully, we won't. But just to bring it back around to Sean Dyche and play devil's advocate, I think Mosey said on post match, we should do what we did with what we should have done with Frank Lampard when he kept us up against Palace. Said, look, you're coming what you were meant to do. Like we did with Sam Allardyce effectively. Thanks very much. See you later.
mm.
I don't agree with that. I think I tend to sort of go more with Matt Flusk's view on things now, where he's saying like, this club needs stability. And, Sean Dyche, he's by no means a perfect manager, but he's done a good job under the circumstances. And he could bring that stability that the club hasn't had and might well need if we're going into another season of upheaval with players, potential points deductions. He's done it once this season. He's done it already. He might be able to do it again. But then, if he does stay next season, the conversation is going to be: should he be the fella to take us into the new stadium?
Yeah,
I think whoever's managed at the time is good enough to take us into that new stadium. I don't see this argument at all that we need someone special to take us into that new ground. If the manager's doing a good enough job to be in the job, he's the one who should take us in there, regardless of, that's
yeah.
another sentimental thing, isn't it? Where do you stand on that for next season and potentially the season after? For me, he stays on now. He's done enough this season. If you look at it objectively, he's done enough this season to earn to see out that final year of his contract, and then maybe have a discussion early next season about extending it if things are going well. Where do you stand on all that?
I think some of every point you've raised there is really interesting. And I'd first of all, I'd implore anybody to go listen to post match there, the debate that Matt Flusk had with what I was leaning towards with Mosey. It was really, really interesting.
Yeah,
And I
it
think
was a belter post match. Even talking the Cuban Missile Crisis from Keith, it was all in
yeah,
there.
things, yeah. I mean, yes, some of the discussions just went to places you didn't know existed, but they were certainly Everton based. So I'm not trying to put anybody off if you just wanted 100% of Everton. It very much was, but
Yeah,
with different references all the way through it. But yeah, in all seriousness, what they were both saying, they were able to back both of their arguments, the points that they were making. I felt with Mose first of all, and I don't really want to paraphrase this because please go and listen to it if you haven't already. But what he was saying, I completely got with what you want to have as an Evertonian, what not what you deserve as an Evertonian, because like you said, nobody's entitled to any way of football whatsoever. But the way in which he expressed what he was saying, I completely got that because it was very eloquent the way in which he said it about what Everton you want, what Everton you feel should be the one that we see, versus what Matt Fluss was saying in terms of we need stability. I don't think for a minute that Mose was saying that. Look, I don't think that's as important as he does. I just think that the way in which, in my interpretation, what he was saying, which I did agree with, was that can you get a better version of Everton out of this? Are we going to be this Everton side? Because I'm not in it for that. And again, I'm not paraphrasing what he said there, but that's sort of very much what I felt, and I completely get that. But again, that is something that we've felt for many, many years now. And it's been something that's been dangerous, let's face it. when we've had the managers we had, again, Ancelotti taken away from that list, Everton have been in serious danger when we've tried to do something different that wasn't as effective of what Sean Dyche has been like. And to further with your question there, where we stand with Dyche himself, yeah, I broadly agree. I think that he first of all deserved to stay on, but that's by the by. I think that's an easy argument to have if you want him to stay or you don't, the way in which we play and whatnot. But I think we've got to a point where you have to include what have been age-old arguments of who do you get, the money it'll cost and all that. Let's face it. If Everton want to change manager, I don't think they actually can. Even if they wanted to, I don't think we can
Yeah.
right now, unless you get somebody who'd happily do it for free. And I don't think any fan would do it for free, given how mental that job's been. And then add to it how you go into a season that has got more pressure on than any other, because, like you say, the last year at Goodison, look, if you'd offered me 17th now, I'd take it. I might get criticised for that, mate. But if you said 30 points keeps you up in the Premier League, I would absolutely bite your hand off right now to finish 17th on goal difference. I don't care. The big thing for me is leaving Goodison to go to a brand new stadium that was still a Premier League side.
Yeah.
That's up there, probably as much, if not more than anything else. In order to do that, I think you have to keep Sean Dyche. Um, the only issue that I see with that is if he has a poor start to the season. Let's face it, if we went into the new campaign, I think we're quite lucky that Leicester are going to have a point deduction. By the way, that's a big help and a nice thing to look at as well, because I'm no fan of Leicester whatsoever. But when you look at that again objectively, we're in a position there where if he went 1 in 15 and went exactly the same run that we're talking about, that's been the worst effort Everton have had in the Premier League, and you're talking worse than Mike Walker. Where do we stand then? And that's when it becomes a decision that might well become impossible, because if you started the season as poor as that and you're, say, in the bottom three but well adrift of a 17th place, I think it's inevitable that debate comes in. Regardless, I think it'll come in quick anyway. Even if we lost that first 3 or 4, people will be saying, "Why have we kept him?" That's a
Yeah.
natural. That's a natural sort of kicking the can down the road feeling that many fans have anyway. Oh, I never liked him anyway, so get rid of him now, type of thing. That'd come if that happened, but we can't. You've got to put all your eggs in his basket. Is sort of what I'm saying here, and you've got to back him for it too. Even if you did this, I don't like him as a manager. I couldn't stand that we got him. I was devastated we got him, as much as when we got Allardyce in, style of football and whatnot, which is idiotic to think now that you actually care about how we play. It's what's on that scoreboard at the end of it that matters, and
Yeah.
that's nothing more important than that. Everything else around it, I don't care. I don't care how we play. Win a game, get a draw. That's fine by me.
So
You know what I mean? You can kick the ball into the air all day long and you can have 1% possession. You go and get a draw or a win. Don't care.
yeah.
Sadly, that's where we are as football fans now. So I guess I've gone all around the world to say the fact that I think Sean Dyche has earned a new season. But I go further than that in saying that I don't think we could do any better than him. And I don't think that whoever we got in could do better than him. As in terms of like again, Matt was saying, you could get the best manager in the world, and they still don't have the same issues. And I think if you've got a better manager in inverted commas, they've got to deal with something they've probably never witnessed. Whereas you look at what Dyche's history is with Burnley, obviously Everton have been much more dramatic than any issues he's had at Burnley, and that's just looking from the outside.
Yeah.
But he's the lad we got in for those last half a season to keep us up. He's kept us up doing a full year's work with everything else that's been thrown against us. Still came through us. Still came through it with Everton in the Premier League. That fella deserves to stay on, and that's whatever's thrown at us. That's regardless of what comes. I think regarding transfers, regarding style of play, regarding we've got a new sponsor of the kit. I don't care, because you've got to fully back that fella at 100%, come what may.
Yeah, I agree. And the issues at the club are a lot more deep rooted than just who's managing the team. It's going to be a tough summer. I think the main thing now is to just take these last three seriously. Don't do the flip flops thing, and just piss about and lose the last three. I think Howard Kendall always had this thing. He never always followed it through, but he always had this thing that you should always at least finish your season strongly to
Yeah.
take that momentum into next season. I think that's dead important. Could probably
Well, like
write Arsenal off, but
yeah, exactly. As I was going to
but
say
the other
there.
two, finish as high or well on as many points as we possibly can. Because even then, there's the psychological thing of even if we finish 15th, we can then say, well, if we hadn't had those points taken off, maybe we'd be 12th. At the minute we're behind. We're behind Brighton on goal difference at the minute. The Premier League's darlings, Brighton, we're behind them on goal difference. Now, obviously, they are a much better run club than us. But even then, with the manager who got them into Europe last season, they're languishing in 12th, well, not many more points than us. So I think that's the carrot for Everton next season. That we've not been far off being like a comfortably mid-table team. If you can get comfortably mid-table, you can start looking at that Europa League then, and don't want to run before we can walk. But it's not that far off if you can get yourself to a comfortable
Yeah,
mid-table club, and I think you need stability to do that.
I think that's a good point. I think that, like you say, you don't want to sort of run before you can walk, but without and again, I've argued this to hell, but I'll include it in this point here where I do think it's correct. If you were to not have those point deductions, Everton would have been much better. Even though my argument has been, well, we still might have lost those games anyway. We might have played
Yeah,
differently and still had less than 8 points that we ended up with. Um, but that does count in his favour, and that counts in what we're able to do in the squad in which we've had. Now, look, you mentioned there, I don't think we're going to do much in the summer whatsoever. You're probably looking at a loan or two. Never thought I'd be in a position where I'm sitting there thinking that I really hope we get another gear out of Jack Harrison on loan. If Leeds come up, by the way, that's not happening. So I hope Leeds don't come up. More than
yeah.
happy for Ipswich to come instead. For multiple reasons, really. It'd be nice to see Ipswich back in. I think they're all right. Um, but with the situation with a few players there. You think about undoubtedly going to sell. I think we're definitely going to sell one of Onana or Branthwaite.
I
Um,
just on that. I think Onana's most likely because I think Dyche has been preparing for life without him because he's been a bit bar player, hasn't he? These last few
mm,
games, he's come off the bench on
and
most
rightfully
occasions.
so, though,
Well,
Les.
yeah.
Rightfully so.
Well, that was another big decision after Chelsea, wasn't it? To just completely bomb him off the team, fully deserved. But I think there's one eye on him not being there next year. I think a few people have said as well, as far as Jared Brandtwaite's concerned, just take the points deduction, don't sell him, and if the league aren't happy, just take the 6 points. He's worth more than 6 points.
Oh yeah, but he's got the Euros as well, which I think you can you throw that onto the fire with him too. If he goes in as a belter, it'll be similar to when Rooney had that Euro 2020
Yeah,
to 2004, and you're
yeah,
thinking, basically get the check out and just see how much you can squeeze out of whoever wants to come and get him, and it will be a hell of a lot of money to be fair to. So there's an asset that we sadly have to include in what we'll probably need financially in terms of what you said there about points. Completely agree. If they said there's another 10 points off, I'd rather have Brantwaite than versus 10 points.
yeah.
Um, and then, the other side of the coin as well, which we spoke about quite a bit, was you've got a decision to make on Idrissa Gana Gay and you've got a decision to make on Andre Gomez. It's hard to take the context of the last week because Gay has been like, I don't
He's
Xavi or something like that
been
for
unreal, hasn't
he's been like Busquets for Barcelona for us is playing in that sort of back role, sort of number 6 role at times for us, and then being he was like a machine against
he?
Liverpool.
Scoring
By the way,
goals as well. What the hell?
he didn't. I know, didn't even know he could shoot. He hasn't. Anytime he got the ball, you'd sort of go for your bevy at half time. If he was having a shot of even around half an hour, you're like, mate, that's going to hit someone in the head. Go down and get your pint. But he's looked every. And what is he now? 34.
I think so.
I
Yeah,
think it's a really interesting tale. His situation was when he came in, he was great. Went to PSG, came back, and I'm thinking they've just given us him he's won a prize to come back to Everton.
yeah.
But it's interesting, isn't it, when the most unlikely people rise in the occasions when you least expect it to happen. He did that, and it's almost like, I think, Les, in my mind, I've got it. This will probably be I don't think we keep both of them in terms of Gomez and him. I think it's pretty clear that Gay probably. I say pretty clear. I think Gay probably edges that. If I was to say to you, which one of those two would you keep?
Oh, all day, yeah.
It's Gay, and that's nothing against Gomez, because Gomez has been brilliant for when we've needed him. When he's come back in, it's been a real boost, because I didn't think we'd see him in an Everton shirt again at certain points of the season. Came back in, did really well for us, but I think in terms of importance, it's easier for us to have a midfield with someone who's similar to him, or that position per se, as opposed to just Gay. We don't really have anybody else who can play that role. So sadly say goodbye to Andre if that's the case. But also the financial element too. Someone was saying to me, he's on over 100k.
He's on a big wedge.
He's being sent to the train. He's been sent to Lime Street if he's still on over 100k.
No, I agree, mate. Right, we'll wrap it up there.
Yeah.
I think we've covered a lot of bases.
Just a bit, mate. Yeah, just a bit.
Anyone watching on YouTube, by the way, that thing I've got in the corner, that's when skies are grey, designed for a Blue Monday t-shirt. You can still get it on Spreadshirt as well if you go to Spreadshirt.
Find it early.
Still buy the t-shirt. Would recommend. Yeah.
Do you hear that ice cream in my background, by the way? That ice cream van.
Oh no, couldn't hear it.
Oh, there's an ice cream van in the background there. I'm gonna go get a 99 to celebrate.
See, that's it. It's all getting better, isn't it? Spring's in there. The ice cream van's back out.
Exactly. Summer's here. It's pissing down and blowing a gale, but I'll still go get a 99 from the ice cream van, who's a bit nuts.
I think you should. Definitely.
Yeah, exactly.
And if there's any ice cream vans, anyone listening, go.
But also, there's how much of a laughs mailbag going to be this week?
Oh yeah, I've got like a load of questions hung over from last week and whatever we get this week. It should be interesting. So yeah, coming up this week we'll have subs weekly. Mailbag's back. Matt will have a preview, and we've got part 2 of your.
Yeah, speaking about the guys on Thursday, getting deeper into that. But I'm not getting any money for this, but do go and have a look at that book for the Machiri years, because it is fascinating.
Yeah, and if you've not listened to that podcast, it is great. The stuff they talk about with Machiri and his finances and the new ground, it's genuinely jaw-dropping.
Yeah, and we've only just touched the sides with that. We haven't gone any deeper into what's included in that, and yeah, it's a bit of a taster more than anything else. On Thursday, we're going to be going a lot longer and a lot more things you probably wouldn't even have thought of with Machiri. There's some really interesting stuff there that I was just gobsmacked them out. So
yeah,
give it a go, part 2. So yeah, I've still got plenty of stuff coming, and then still got 3 games to go as well.
Yeah, good stuff. Keep it out for that. If you're watching on YouTube, leave comments, subscribe, all the usual stuff. Listen on Spotify, you can leave a comment as well, can't you, Dave?
I can't believe you just said that, mate. Because you know what? That's a little secret that I have, that everyone just praises us on Spotify.
I love it.
We've got we've got thousands of people listening to this thinking, I'm going to go and slate them because I like someone else's podcast better than yours. But the joke's on you, because I rule whether they're published or not. So haha.
There you go. Cheers, Dave.
Say something nice and you get your name on it.
Nice one, Dave. Cheers, everyone. Toffees are safe. Go and enjoy the spring weather. We'll catch you in the week. Up those toffees.